digital public to this extent. I mean, she began with, I think, the New York Times, very well orchestrated, obviously, onslaught against him. And I read all that and thought, wow, poor Blake Lively. I've got to say, I'm not really thinking about that. The more I read about it, the more I think Spain and all these groups involved, publicists involved, producers involved, everybody involved seems to be absolutely horrible.
Well, you say we haven't seen before, but we kind of have with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Well, that's true, yeah, because that only came out in the end. And so,
That is something that a lot of people connect to. Justin, which, the same PR rep who repped Johnny, who was behind this, Blake sort of saw that as, oh, you're trying to. She didn't realize that that's what it's been astonishing. I just got back on 30,000 people last night because the judge is trying to reprimand Justin for dropping the seat. How is this allowed? Drop the lawsuit with all its very crypto tech. Remove the motions and like intent and backstory to the effects. They're mad at Justin for releasing the full concept of the effects. It makes no sense.
She decided to promote a film about domestic violence by floating her alcohol debt. Even though you know that domestic violence cases are involved drinking by the side of the abuser. And she got her husband's PR company that wasn't signed up by Sony to take over the promotion of the film. What else has to do with this film that Justin Baldwin's production team did in the first place?
And then she's been hit with a retaliation.
You know what she could have done? She could have pulled out of the film and retained her $400 million fortune that she has with her husband.
Yeah.
I
mean, the real shame for me, Shannon, is that, have you seen the movie?
I have, yes.
I thought it was great. I thought the acting in it from both of them was fantastic. In fact, I remember thinking, wow, the chemistry here is wild, and the twist is great. And literally, I want to go and watch it again now. It's such a great, well-made film. And that's what's sad. It's like, they should all be basking in the glory of this film, and instead of just having kids. Is that a reality? Pretty good.
Like, none of this was ever about making good film. It was about power. It was about power. And now the power is backfired. They tried to play it out in public. That didn't work. They don't want Justin playing it out in public. The only way Blake and Ryan could salvage what's left of their reputation, which they don't realize. I really don't think they realize how reviled they are. I don't think they realize they're losing. If they did something that no litigious celebrity has ever done, which is come out and be like, we made a mistake. Suing someone is a nightmare. It's stressful. It's expensive. It's a life ruiner. And you know what's good? Even if we're right, it's not perfect. We're going to back away. I bet Justin would call up the dog also.
Yeah, I mean, critical drinking, what's been fascinating to me, critical drinking, what's been really interesting to me is the way the modern phenomenon of publicists through useful journalists using digital outlets and social media stuff to just wage a kind of warfare against somebody surreptitiously under the radar where it just goes viral. And I just remember reading about Blake Lively thinking, what's causing all this? Why is she getting all this? So that's the film. it, you think, I was probably a little bit too sympathetic given what's now being published.
I think, yeah, ultimately all you need is a big PR firm and a few thousand blog accounts, and you can make pretty much any story.
Yeah.
Reality on social media. That's the scary reality.
Yeah, it is.
that we live in now.
Yeah, I think that's really true. It's really actually quite disturbing. Right, Andy, I want to play you a clip of Selena Gomez crying about Trump and his immigration deportations.
I'm so sorry. All the people are getting sick. Children. They don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something that we can't. I don't have to do. I'll try to be there.
I mean, Andy, that was genuinely one of the most pathetic things that I had to endure watching on social media. That in her moments of being
No, you solved it all.
obviously, it's the whole idea of it. When you're crying like that and you're a massive star, the first thought is, I better just Instagram live this to the world, just in case they don't capture my full sincerity. Because
My wife's in Puerto Rico. She's had concerns. I'm not going to say that people aren't allowed to have concerns. What I find frustrating about this is it's so performative. It's so unhelpful.
Yeah.
It's like, why are you doing this? Why would you think that? I think all social media needs an "Are you sure" button.
it's so narcissistic.
Yeah.
Well, she got
Most of it.
an "Are you sure" button. It came in the response that came from the public, who just bombarded it. Well, what on earth are you doing? And it was just so
People are so
frustrating.
over this.
Yeah,
People are so over this.
I totally agree. It
You
got
should be
through.
crying over Amelia Flores, if we're being honest.
Yeah, this kind of performative activism, this like fake outrage, and
Yeah.
fake tears, like it's done. Like that sort of thing peaked several years ago, and people are just so like wise to it now. We've got no time for it, and she got rightly mocked for something like this.
James, just bring in the defence of the indefensible. I mean, there can't be a defence for this,
I
sure.
mean, I do agree that just going live on Instagram whilst crying is a choice. Like, exactly, it's actually a choice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I don't think she's acting though. Like we've seen her act. I don't think that is Selena Gomez acting. I do think that's real. Also, I just want to say Selena Gomez is not a fan of mine. And after a documentary that she filmed, she did an interview with me and came off the back of it saying that was really pointless. So if you
Well,
take
so she has
to
got
a fan like her, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of Selena Gomez, and it makes sense that she's sad. I mean, there's a lot of people being deported and losing their families.
So actually, what's happening at the moment, actually, this is the point though. Again, I call it the TikTok information train, where she probably just watched a few TikToks, right? Because the reality is, in this first phase of these deportations, they are almost exclusively illegal immigrant criminals. And by the way, as the White House pointed out, even if they weren't actually breaking new crimes, actually, let's listen to the White House press secretary.
Sarah, I'm so sorry. All the people are getting sick. Children.
Seeing that video, it's hard to believe that it's actually genuine and real because she's an actress.
You don't know who you're praying for.
Sorry, by the White House press officer. The White House prosecution made another point, which was notwithstanding the fact that these people they're talking have actually lost their loved ones, and there's no Selena Gomez crying for them over illegal immigrants getting their loved ones. But the other point she made, which I thought was just very simple and powerful, actually, if you're an illegal immigrant to the United States, you are already a criminal. You're breaking the law. And I just renewed my visa today, right? It's a laborious process. Actually, green card, even more laborious. Citizenship, even more laborious. For all those who go through the legal process of doing these things, why should people who just wander over borders, whether it's America, UK, whatever, I think people are pretty sick of it, actually. Sick of people just abusing a system to better their lives. Great, immigrants bring a wonderful thing to many countries in totality. It doesn't mean that legal immigration should be always.
In some cases,
Do you know how much fraud you have to commit being an illegal immigrant in a country to actually stay there, to get employment, to get access to hospitals and public services? Like at every single level, you are committing fraud. It's not just the illegal entry.
I think it was a choice between being murdered where you currently live and then
Well, you take asylum.
Illegal way.
This is the asylum seeker program. It's specifically designed for that. Let me bring in saying, Andy, about New York American, it just seems to me it was too early to do that anyway, because the narrative of the story at the moment is pretty restricted to pretty unpleasant people who've done pretty unpleasant crimes as well as being there illegally. That was the first tranche of this deportation movement.
I think everyone's not as educated as need be, and we're all reacting to TikToks. I don't disagree with you. Even I don't feel like I fully understand what's happening. So many things are promised or offered, and then we don't know. I still stand by it. While I think some people have issues that they can be worried about. I know my wife, she has I don't want to get into specifics of it, but my point is, I know people are concerned about what's this mean. And you know, I do get worried, but Selena Gomez is not helping it. I still stand by it. It's incredibly performative, and she should do more homework before she goes cries and rallies her base to get all emotional as well, because she's clearly not as informed.
She could put some of hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, I think it's
Money
really
towards the cause.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be nice.
Let's turn to Captain.
This outrage in the run-up to the election. I mean, this election didn't happen overnight. Was she campaigning? Was she handing out leaflets? Was she volunteering? Was she doing petitions, foundations? Or was she liking mean tweets about Amy Baldwin?
I think you live in a very dumbed down world now, driven by TikTok. Which I like. TikTok's fun, you know, everything else. But it also is the number one news source for people under 25. And this is what happens, is they see often deliberately slanted or edited or just completely disingenuous clips lasting 20 seconds. And they think that gives them a world view about Trump's immigration policy. The truth is that Trump, you know, under Biden, nearly 10 million people, it's been reported, came in illegally over the border. In the southern border over 4 years. That's completely unsustainable. It doesn't mean right or left wing or anything. You just have to accept that is completely unacceptable. And it can't go on like that. So he's decided to start by deporting all those who are here illegally in America who break the law again. That seems to be completely reasonable. Anyone disagree?
I think it's reasonable, but also let's have some empathy. And I think that's
For
what
criminals,
No, I just think people are affected by these decisions.
who do you want to hang on, James, who do you want empathy for?
Well, we're talking about people who have families, maybe their families are also with them. If they've broken the law, obviously they shouldn't be in
You know who you should
America.
have empathy for?
But there are other people connected to those people. It affects a lot.
For the underage brides stuck in Afghanistan who are being pushed to the back of the queue the asylum process to the United States because some illegal immigrant from Mexico that decided to jump over the border and potentially commit a crime is being asked for us to give them this our sympathy by James Bond.
I never said have sympathy. I said have
The
empathy.
point is there a clip of Selena Gomez crying for the victims of those mothers talking about their children being murdered?
Absolutely.
Of course not, because it doesn't cross her mind to do that. And it's a bit like the argument with Israel and Hamas, right? When I've got a lot of sympathy for the pro-Palestinians who start by saying October the 7th was horrendous, I completely condemn it, and then put their case, fine. And the whole worldview about that story is driven exclusively by anti-Israel sentiment, anti-Jewish sentiment. I have no time for it. And it's the same thing, it's driven by TikTok. You see the anti-Israeli stuff all the time. You never ever see the other side of it. We shouldn't get brainwashed into thinking there was only one way of looking at these things. I see it on every one of these stories as well. One side, pumped out. Selena Gomez, all she cares about is what she thinks are little children being snatched in the street and deported. That is not what's happening at the moment. Now, that's not to say it may not happen. But who was the biggest deporter of illegal immigrants in American history? President Barack Obama. He was the deporter in chief in Mexico. That was his nickname. 3 million people deported in 8 years. You know how many live in Zero. I test them all the time. They do not know. And that's my problem with this. It's all bullshit, performative, talking of which, just go to Captain America. Captain America. I don't know if you're stupid. My empathy about stupid people is extremely low. he described most of what he
To me, Captain America represents a lot of different things, and I don't think the term, America should be one of those representations. Like, it's about a man who keeps his word, who has honor, dignity, and integrity. Someone who is trustworthy and dependable.
So, I mean, again, we start with you, Andrew, the Americans looking puzzled there. What are we saying?
I mean, he's pandering to Rome. He wants to pander to non-American countries that he's promoting his film in because Marvel is tanking in all countries. And I can see why he did it, but I also just think he's such a bozo. Like, he knew that was going to get clipped. He knew how much people are looking at not only Marvel, but just movies in general. It just sounds so anti-American. But I believe he was just trying to sell his movie abroad. So I'm not as offended as most, but I totally accept why people are upset with him because Captain America, we're the audience. Marvel is dying right now. I used to be so excited for every Marvel movie. I do not care about this movie at all. And that's really bad that even Marvel fans are like, maybe I'll catch it on Disney Plus.
Right.
And he promoted it heavily to make its money, but not at the expense of saying it's not American. That's
I just think if you're making critical drinker tens of millions wearing tights, pretending to be a superhero, the least you can do if you're called Captain America and you're American is big up America, right? If your basic marketing position in America sucks, says Captain America, this ain't a great idea.
I tend to agree with Andy on this one. I don't think he was trying to necessarily badmouth America, more so the fact that he knew he was in Europe and he's preaching to a European audience. And I think what he was trying to say was more just, this is a sort of universal heroic character that people all around the world can look up to. It's not uniquely American. I don't think he expressed it in the best way he could have. And I think he knew it in the middle of actually saying it, which is why he tries to then backtrack.
Yeah.
There's a little bit more footage where he's kind of stumbling over his words and hesitating because he knows he said something wrong and he's trying to think of the right way to salvage it. He can't ultimately. It's just an unfortunate PR flaw. It happens to everyone. It happens to the best of us.
You know what, though, Sharon, I mean, that's very generous, I think, for critical drinker. Unusually generous, I may say so.
Yeah.
Because honestly, you've got one job if you're Captain America in the movies, right? Because everyone in America will love it if you say, I love America. That's all you got to say. I love America. I couldn't be more proud to play Captain America.
Yeah, they're not coming to see Captain Europe or Captain Rome. They just made that movie. It's called Conclave. They got that film. And this is like the Blake Lively thing. It's like, get on board. Get on board with the PR machine. If you don't want
Yeah.
to talk about this issue, don't do this movie. Go be in a weird trans movie and sing the penis and vagina song. Like, you have options out there. If you didn't understand people
I'm
are
actually going to have nightmares about that. I didn't watch, I don't know what full critical drinker went through. 2 hours of it.
It was an experience. It really was.
Esther, your thoughts on Captain America?
I see the thing is, it's a very cultural problem where these American celebrities feel the need to just overshare and to go off script and stuff like that. Other parts of the world, if you're promoting a film, particularly a film that has they've invested hundreds of millions of dollars in, you stay on the script. You say the film is great, it's none of being part of this cast, whatever. But this American celebrities, this culture, narcissistic culture in Hollywood that makes them say, oh yes, this doesn't really represent what America is right now. Who asked you? Who asked you? Who cares? Did anybody ask you anything about what you think about America right now?
Also, this is why they should never get into
Oh, it's a
politics.
great film. That's
Yeah,
Well, I guess he's not, is he? He's just like trying to skirt around the issue. He's not saying
No
it's
one's asking about the issue. Your business there is to promote the film. Close your mouth.
It's like
Well,
we
in a way, the movie in itself is kind of about Captain America versus government.
Huh?
When you see the film, that's kind of what it's tapping into.
It's a Marvel film.
It's an
comic book
interesting-
film. It's
yeah.
boom boom kaboom. Happy days. Just
It's
like
like
that.
James Bond.
It's boom, 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 boom.
It's like James Bond. We've had this debate. Look, we've had this debate before. It's like James Bond, right? You just want James Bond to be a hard-drinking, wildly promiscuous assassin. That's it. With a twinkle in his eye, and that's
Womanizer.
all you want. That's what women want him to be. It's what men want him to be. And if the wokies just leave him alone, right, bring him back from the dead, he was last seen crying, not allowed to touch any women, the whole thing was just a complete fiasco. So now we're going to bring him back to the old franchise of pop. And we've seen someone's going to take him back to the good old days. James?
Bond, I can't believe we're having this conversation again.
It was about he's not Captain America.
They're very different a movie. They're not at all similar. I understand why you're drawing comparison there, but they
I
are.
think it's because there's this ongoing thing about what has happened to the James Bond franchise. They killed it.
But we don't know.
Supposed to bring it back. There's nothing going on with this movie franchise. I love James Bond, and I want him to go back.
Because that was an incredible Bond, so multi-layered.
Until the end. Until he became
And modern man, and I think that's what we need
He was
from
a
our men.
modern man. He was an emasculating drip.
Not
Oh,
a-
yeah.
He became a Western
And you realize he gets wearing a papoose. I mean, he's just ridiculous.
I don't hear about your
Anyway, great panel. Thank you all very much. Great to see you all. James, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's been a while. Don't leave us alone this time. Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
The Domino's Ultimate Chicken Mexicana with smoky mayo drizzle. Less Mexican standoff, more Mexican sit down.
I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something for the kid. I don't know what to do.
This is exactly what I'm talking about the kind of ludicrous hysteria that the left seem to specialize in, fueled by liberal celebrities.
They're traumatizing our children. There are kids in my town where I live, and they ask me every day. My friends want to know when their parents are going to be taken.
I'd love to ask JoJo why she's so traumatized by people who come into our country illegally who get removed, but not so traumatized when people who trespass on the Capitol grounds are raided by the FBI and thrown in jail.
It is a bit of a different Donald Trump, and I think it's to the benefit not just of America, but to the entire world. He was sold to so many Americans as this monster. You know, you throw out any word you want that's negative, they would apply it to Donald Trump.
Is Barron being lined up? Is he the next president?
That's the rumor, isn't it? There may be another President Trump coming down the line from stage.
No one will loathe it. There'll be plenty of people in both camps. President Trump appears to have done more in his first week than Joe Biden managed in a whole 4 years. Legendary Diet Coke button is back in the Oval Office, as is, I'm delighted to say, the bust of Sir Winston Churchill. It was first removed by Barack Obama, and then again by Joe Biden. Fired up by artificial sweetness and Churchillian spirit, the new president has charged headfirst into transforming the country as he sees it to make America great again. And he's held more press conferences, taken more questions, both in the Oval Office and on board Air Force One, than Biden did in 4 years. Trump even found time to hold a campaign-style rally in Las Vegas at the weekend, where he gleefully explained his get-it-done strategy.
Macron of France, so call you back in 2 months. So 2 months comes along and there's no call. They say, he didn't call. The stories are, I mean, these stories are not very exaggerated. I want to tell you, they're a little bit for laughter, but you know, it's only for laughter. The fake news will say, oh, he exaggerated. It was only 1 month, you know. But I would say he'd call you back, and then he'd never call, and then they could never get him on the phone. And the problem I have is that when I speak to and I speak to them immediately, they'll say, could we speak to the president? Would that be possible? We could do it anytime over the next month. They're so used to this, right? I say, no, I'll pick it up right now. Is he on the phone? Yeah, hello, I'll get through it. That's what, you know, get it over with, right? Get it over.
Well, those world leaders are getting a big spoonful of the America First medicine. Colombia's president initially announced his country would flatly refuse to accept deportation flights from the United States as the new administration ramped up its tough new immigration policy. Trump responded by threatening him with massive tariffs and said he'd cancel the visas of all Colombian government officials and supporters. And guess what? Last night, Colombia's president agreed to all of America's demands and said the Colombian presidential plane would now be sent to aid the deportation effort. You might not like it, but you can't say it's not incredibly efficient. This week we'll find out just how far the Trump transformation can go. Pete Hegseth was confirmed as the defense secretary over the weekend, but 3 of Trump's most contentious cabinet picks, Pat Patel, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr., as US Senate this week. Well, joining me now to discuss all of this frenzy first week is Brandon Struck, he's a Republican commentator and campaigner, pardoned by President Trump for his role in January 6th, journalist and political commentator Geraldo Rivera, and the Democrat commentator and podcaster Brian Carlucci, aka Joe from Jersey. Welcome to all of you. We also later have Lara Trump joining us, which will be fascinating given what's happened to her father-in-law in the last week. Arado, great to see you. We've spoken many times over the years about Donald. Happy New Year, belatedly. We've spoken a lot, Arado, about Donald Trump over the years. We both appeared on his Celebrity Apprentice show 15 years ago. We know him well. You got a bit fed up with him, to put it mildly. Were you stunned by the scale of his win?
I was. I thought that it was pretty clear he was going to win, Piers, but the fact that he also won the popular vote, I figured the electoral college and all that, without going into the arcane American system to the UK audience, I thought that he Trump, in January 6th, really discredited himself to such an extent that he should never, ever be president again. And I thought a lot of Americans agreed with me. I was wrong. He won the Electoral College and he won the popular vote resoundingly. It's pretty clear that, and he's even more popular now than he was on election day. So I think that it's pretty clear that Donald Trump has a mandate from the American people to make his America Great Again agenda happen.
Just to clarify, Arado, no need to apologise to UK audience because we're now a global show. I'm actually broadcasting from Saudi Arabia in Riyadh right now. That's where we are. We have more viewers now, as appears, organised sense in America than anywhere else in the world. So no need at all to worry about any UK sensibilities, Arado. You can be as American as you like.
Okay.
Arado, before I let you go to the other two, Trump has hit the ground ferociously hard this time round. And it looks to me like a guy who, for two reasons, feels he's had a new lease of life. One, quite literally, because he nearly died in an assassination attempt. And in fact, there were two attempts on his life in the space of a few weeks. But one where he was hit on the ear, again, half an inch away from death. And secondly, that as a president, he's got another go at it. And he's had 4 years to sit in the wilderness and think about what he got right, what he got wrong. And it seems to me that this time around, fueled by the fact that he survived the assassin's bullet, he's just decided to go for it. And he's going to do all the things that he wanted to do, perhaps regretted not doing quickly enough first time, while he's got the first 2 years in particular of this extraordinary, overwhelming mandate. I just get a sense of a guy, as we would say over here, with his gander up, who's going for it full tilt. And it's, whatever people think of what he's doing, I'm sure not all the panelists are going to agree that it's all a force for good. It's certainly incredibly exciting to watch.
Well, in terms of me personally and the relationship I had with Donald Trump, I fell in love with him all over again in that defiant way that he survived the assassin's bullet and never lost his composure, clenched his fist. He was like a superhero, and I thought that he really behaved magnificently in terms of him getting his gander up. My goodness, look what he did in Gaza, for example. A very, very difficult situation that it seemed the parties were content to bloody each other and the civilian death toll mounting, etc. Israel defiant. I thought that he did a magnificent job, Trump, in getting the parties to the table in Gaza and finally getting a ceasefire in that awful bloodbath of a region. You mentioned the Colombian president. He was, again, that was the third time we used the word defiant. The Colombian president was defiant and said to the American president, I'm not taking that plane load of Colombian migrants, undocumented migrants. Forget about it. You're sending them in American military aircraft. Their hands are bound, their feet are bound on the plane. I'm not taking it. It's undignified. But Trump said, if you're not taking them, I'm going to close the embassy in Bogota. I'm going to not issue visas to any of your VIPs. Colombia is one of those countries where the rich kind of commute back and forth between the United States and Colombia, very often having dual residence. So it was something that he struck chord, to say the least. The Colombian president caved, and there you have it. I think that Trump is on a roll. He's got the full might and majesty of the American, economic engine behind him. He has this wicked tariff he could throw on anybody at any time. I think that, I would not, if I were a foreign leader, get in his way right now, because I think he's on wrong.
Well, Jojo, I saw that you were called stony-faced, is how I would categorize your expression there. Welcome to Uncensored. Great to have you here. You made a big name for yourself in the last year, so it's exciting to have you. I don't think you feel he's quite on the roll in the euphoric way that Geraldo does. Am I right in picking up the more negative vibes?
Well, thank you for having me on, and yeah, no, you're definitely picking up what I'm laying down, but I wanted to start with, here's your comment about Donald Trump's achievement in installing a Diet Coke button in the Resolute desk, because I'm old-fashioned, I guess, and my barometer for achievement is maybe not leaving office, saddling our economy with the third largest debt relative to the size of our economy of any president in our history. But I mean, maybe you measure success differently, and I just wanted to also mention Geraldo. Yeah, you're right about it being exciting. Someone mentioned some of you as being exciting, but I'm old enough to know and grew up in the tri-state area that sometimes exciting things also yield nothing, like, a vault being opened on live TV or something like that. You can get a lot of excitement and
Wow.
and ultimately nothing. I mean, I'm just old enough to remember that. Oh, look, Geraldo, all due respect, I did grow up with you on TV, and everyone remembers that sort of infamously, well, I don't know how to, I won't say it was a failure, but let's just say infamous event. But you mentioned that you have a mandate, and I wanted to. Oh, look, I mean, we watched it, right? It was amazing. It's now become a punchline and a running joke, and all due respect, so we all build our careers the way we do. But you mentioned that he has a mandate, and I wanted to touch on that because he did not win the majority of the popular vote. He has a plurality of the popular vote. There are more people in this country who didn't vote for him than did. So none of that is a mandate by any stretch of the imagination.
Hang on. Putting aside your very quick, sly whack at Geraldo, who's far too gentlemanly, I'm sure.
Whack at Geraldo.
But putting that aside, actually Trump does have an undeniable, incredible mandate. He won the Electoral College, the popular vote, the White House, the Senate, and the House of Representatives. It is what is called in politics a clean sweep. And you on the left, with all due respect,
lost all of those things. The first one to ever do that here. He's also lost all of those things. The first one to ever do that.
But at some point, I think in the process of Democrats trying to somehow regain some credibility, you are going to have to just accept you've got a complete shellacking. You're just going to have to. And then you're going to have to work out how you're going to somehow get back at Trump in a way that doesn't involve just endless screaming. As we're speaking, Selena Gomez, right? I'm going to play you a clip. This is exactly what I'm talking about the kind of ludicrous hysteria that the left seems to specialize in, fueled by liberal celebrities, that they think works to the public, that actually makes the public laugh at them. Selena Gomez has decided that the correct response to, so far, a bunch of illegal immigrant criminals, including some despicable people, by the way, with despicable crimes, are being deported, that this is the correct response. Let's take a look.
All these people are getting taxed, the children. I don't understand. I'm so sorry. I wish I could do something, but we can't. I don't know what to do. We'll try everything.
Now, there's a lot to unpack there, but you should know that she almost immediately deleted it because the instant reaction from Americans was to absolutely ridicule this absurdly narcissistic response from somebody trying to make this all about her, weeping for people, in some cases, I've seen rapists and murderers. What is she crying about?
In some cases, like right here in my state, it was a U.S. citizen and veteran here that was also detained without a warrant at his place of work. So, I mean, if you want to talk about the rapists and criminals that are being detained, if you're just going to not refer to those situations as well, we're not really painting a full picture. And I want to just stop really quickly on the emotion that she expressed there. We are traumatizing our society as we speak. We are traumatizing our children. There are kids in my town where I live. My kids are 12 and 15 years old, and they ask me every day. My friends want to know when their parents are going to be taken, and will they have to go too? And if they don't go, who will take care of them? There was a video that went around my town last night that children here thought was real of ICE coming and taking kids out of
But
the
let me
home.
ask you,
This
let me
is
ask you, let me ask you, let me ask you.
traumatizing.
Okay, Jojo, let me ask you. So do you believe then that it is entirely correct and proper that illegal immigrants who enter the country illegally and are then criminals who've broken the law, that they should be allowed to stay? And what about the million people who've already been processed for deportation under the Biden administration but weren't actually deported? Would you keep them as well? In other words, for you, is there no limit to what people can do? They can come in illegally, they can break the law with impunity, they can be processed for deportation, but still you want to keep them in America. Well, what are you saying? It's important to clarify.
Well, I never said that, but I never said that at all. In fact, I do. I will say that, first of all, my father was an immigrant. He came here lawfully from Lebanon, worked for 50 years for the Department of Defense, believed in a shining city on a hill. I would also say that if we're going to have that I believe that, by the way, there's much reform to the immigration process in this country. If I were an expert on that, I'd have a very different job. I'm not. I will say that it needs to be done and needs to be addressed. If we're going to have the conversation about consequences and rule of law, then we need to have that conversation about somebody sitting on your panel right now who was a January 6th insurrectionist and was pardoned for his crimes. So if you're going to thread the needle on what is acceptable in terms of allowing crime and what is not acceptable in terms of allowing crime or forgivable in terms of allowing crime because of the color of someone's skin or the status of their citizenship, then I don't think this is a conversation about the rule of law at all.
Okay, but just to be clear, if you haven't answered the question, would you let illegal immigrants who break the
Do
law
I think that people
stay
should
in
be able to?
America?
No, I don't. I don't think anyone should be able to break the law in this country and have no consequences for it. I do think that there are other ways to handle immigration rather than rounding people up in their elementary schools or going to their places of work or showing up at the groves where they're picking the citrus fruit that none of us will pick. And so that whole thing is, we don't have the citrus crops we used to have because no one will pick it. Do I think that they should be able to commit crimes willy-nilly? No, I don't think anybody in this country should be able to do that. Do I think dehumanizing them by putting it on TV with Dr. effing Phil is the way to do it? No. We've seen this playbook before, Pierce. Everyone on this panel knows we've seen this playbook before. This is how you dehumanize people so that you can get towards the charge. And I'm not on board with
Let
that.
me ask you my favorite. All right, before I go to Brandon to respond, you know my favorite question for my liberal friends is who's the biggest deporter of them all? Who deported more illegal immigrants than any president in history, pro rata, per year?
You're going to say Barack Obama, right? You're going to say Barack Obama.
I'm not saying it for any reason other than it is Barack Obama. He deported over 3 million illegal immigrants in 8 years.
Did he have Dr. Phil do it on TV?
I don't really care whether Dr. Phil is that or not. My point is, the greatest deporter of all, the man who earned the moniker of deporter in chief in Mexico, was actually a Democrat president, Barack Obama. And I don't remember people like you screaming about how inhumane it all was when that was going on. In fact, most liberals I know have no idea, A, that he deported 3 million people, or B, that he was the deporter in chief.
Why?
Anyway, I mean,
Because he didn't turn it into a reality show. Because he wasn't designed to dehumanize. Because he didn't make it into a prop and cops and reality TV. It wasn't the Hunger Games with Running Man. That's why. You don't think this is dehumanizing them, Pierce? Do you support them? Let me ask you a question, Pierce. Do you support them being dehumanized?
I think when you, I don't agree with anyone being dehumanized, but I do agree with illegal immigrants
That's
and
what's
breaking
happening, is
the
it
law
not?
in any country being thrown out. Yeah. Because by the way, I have to go
That's
through
the
the
question I asked
second
you.
process. Well, unfortunately for you, I asked the questions. But my point is that people like me who want to work in America or live in America have to go through a very laborious legal process. Everyone knows that. And when we ultimately get our visas, we're called illegal aliens. So, when it comes to dehumanizing, you can sort the language out on that to start with. Let me go to Brandon. I mean, it was interesting there that Jojo, she's so far waxed Geraldo ad hominem, and she's gone for you as well. Just to remind people who may not know, what was your crime for which you were convicted on January 6th?
Right. Well, a few points that I think are important to let your audience know. Number one, I never entered the Capitol on January 6th. I stood outside of the east side of the building for 8 minutes shooting a video. I didn't engage in any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction, nor did I witness any violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction. Nobody was riding on the side of the building that I was on. I stood outside the building for 8 minutes shooting a video of people walking through the open doors of the Capitol, and then I uploaded that video to Twitter. And because of that, 2.5 weeks later, I was raided by the FBI, put in handcuffs and taken to jail and charged with numerous felony charges by the Biden DOJ, and ultimately took a misdemeanor plea deal. I'd love to ask JoJo why she's so traumatized by people who come into our country illegally who get removed, but not so traumatized when people who trespass on the Capitol grounds are raided by the FBI and thrown in jail. Why are those raids not upsetting to you?
Yeah, good
Are
question,
you
Roger.
actually asking me a question? Let me just tell you, let me ask you a question. Didn't you participate with the Department of Justice to give them information on other people who were there and attacked the Capitol on January 6th, and then you tried to walk that back and said, well, actually, that's not what I said, and so you're chastised by a judge who said, which is it, because you're getting into a little bit of a problem here where you look like you lied in your plea deal? You didn't do that? You didn't cooperate with them at all?
So I sat down with the DOJ as every person who took a plea deal did. That was a requirement of every January 6th defendant who got a plea deal. The difference is I happen to be somebody who was well known before January 6th. So the media had a vested interest in trying to destroy my name and reputation. So they leaked my documents to the media, but what the documents showed was that nobody that I was asked questions about was ever accused of a crime, charged with a crime, or convicted of a crime. So I think to be able to inform on someone, you need to actually help somebody get charged or convicted. None of the people I was asked questions about were ever charged or convicted with a crime.
And then
Interesting.
the representative of yours was chastised in court for that.
Hang on, Jojo, I'm gonna move to Robert.
Yeah, my judge is a
January
lunatic.
6th,
My judge is a lunatic.
Okay,
Oh, there.
Robert, hang on, let me get to the Robert. Robert, on January 6th and the pardons, I gotta say, I'm more in the JD Vance camp. I thought it was absolutely fine to pardon all the peaceful protesters, including our panelists today, Brandon. I think a lot of them have served quite lengthy prison sentences, probably longer than they would have done had they been doing a similar kind of protest somewhere else. But the ones who were violent towards police, I had a big problem with them being pardoned in the way that they were. Did you?
Well, I think that's a middle of the road position. I have no problem with it, Piers. I think that there is a difference between protesters who were peaceful and those who destroyed the building, or especially those who assaulted cops. But I am less offended by it than you might expect, because I think that the whole pardon process is outrageous. It dates back to the days, due respect, of the monarchy, where the monarch could do whatever the monarch wanted. And I think when we, without common law later, the good old days before 1776 and then after, we adopted that, that power for our monarch, our president, and gave him almost or she, presumably someday she, had the power to do whatever they wanted when it came to pardon. They had absolute power, unlimited power. The fact that Trump pardoned them all, I think, was rash, and I don't think it helped his personal standing, his reputation. But he did it, and he had the absolute constitutional power to do it. No one denies that. I think that it is unfortunate. I do want, if I may, Pierce, to talk about these raids, because we had a raid here in the neighborhood, here in Cleveland, Ohio, where the Mexican restaurant in the neighborhood, 3 people, we are told by our neighbors, were summarily arrested by ICE last night. I think that these are real. And I also think this about these raids and the current, this phase of war on illegal aliens, undocumented immigrants. This is the easy part. The easy part is the people that you described in your opening monologue, the heinous criminal, the violent people, the rapists, the murderers, and so forth. Those are the easy ones. The ICE knows where they are. Largely, many of them have monitors. they're gonna be scooped up and they're gonna be taken away, and whether they go in handcuffs or not, is not my concern. What I'm concerned about is, you know, the babysitters and the house cleaners and the fruit pickers. You know, I wrote a couple of books about immigration and how it is I think the strength of the American Republic, that we have these broad shoulders, and so many European countries are losing population. I'm distressed by it. I think that it is, but it is what America voted for. Sadly, I voted for Kamala Harris, but people that voted for Donald Trump largely did it either because of transsexual and transgender and that kind of you know, progressive woke stuff. And the other issue was undocumented immigration, and it struck a chord with the American people, majority of the American people. Not with me, but I'm not in the majority. Certainly not on this particular issue, and I think that the worst is yet to come. Fasten your seatbelts, it's gonna get horrible when they start taking little screaming Jose and Maria out of third grade to be with their parents, and their classmates succeed and are traumatized. But I think it's gonna be, there's gonna be hell today, even if there's not hell today, I think it'll be a star in our national psyche, and I lament it, but I understand. It is what America voted for. When they voted for Trump, they gave him the pardon power. You know, I hope this gentleman takes advantage of this second chance he's gotten in his life and makes the best of it. I did not vote for Donald Trump, and I broke off my friendship with him because of that.
Yeah, I mean, I was very scathing about him on Panther, but I'm friendly with him again. And it's been a remarkable thing to watch his comeback. Jojo, I want to talk about DEI. Seems to be now to be DIA, or DOA, isn't it? Dead on arrival. Because Pete Hegseth, the new defense secretary, immediately ordered that all DEI stuff be removed from the Pentagon. They're basically de-woking the military, and most Americans I've spoken to bang up for this. They think it was ridiculous it ever got woked up in the first place. Do you think that along with DEI, that woke is dead? It's over for the wokies?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to talk about, just to pick up on something Geraldo said about the pardon. I agree with him 100%, that Donald Trump was well within his constitutional right to do whatever he wanted with the pardon. I think we should find a way to reform the pardon in this country. I don't believe we should have a monarch who has any power that is uncheckable. I think, again, Joe Biden was roundly criticized for his choices to pardon the people that he did, but ironically, again, he was well within his constitutional right to do that. And in Donald Trump's case, just because you can does not mean you should. And pardoning those people who did beat our police officers that day, some of which are my very good friends, pardoning them sends the wrong message to everyone in the country. And I just also wanted to say, in terms of what the American people voted, I'm sorry, in terms of what the American people voted for, I'm sorry, when you're done interrupting, I'm going to continue to say what I was saying. You're going to just talk over me. I'm from New Jersey, sir. I have been talked over, believe me. Here's what I was saying in terms of what the American people voted for. January 6th. I was saying something. I mean, I'm not surprised at all that you have no regard for what the court said. Of course, he's just going to talk over me. I was talking.
Right, can you both stop talking, because nobody can understand a word you're saying. So let's just wrap it. I will come to you. Respond. Let Jojo finish her point.
Thank you.
Yes, and then I'll come to
Thank you very much.
Please don't answer. Please don't
Really,
interrupt each other.
degradation.
Nobody can hear you. Yeah, when you talk over each other, it's very pleasing for both of you, but nobody else. So Jojo, finish your point.
Thank you very much, because that's exactly what I was doing. I just wanted to pick up on something Geraldo said in terms of what the American people voted for when they voted for Donald Trump as it pertains to the January 6th pardons. And they did not actually support pardoning the most violent insurrectionists that day. Overwhelmingly, they said that they didn't want that. There was, a spectrum related to those who, like the guy who did the cosplay and the cage thing as a January 6th inmate thing. That guy, there was some debate over whether those people should be pardoned.
Jojo.
The American people didn't vote for that, Spears. They didn't vote for those pardons.
Hang on, please. The problem is with pardons is that Joe Biden has done what only one president in history has ever done, and that was once. They're all full pardon critics of preemption, right? He gave them a preemptive full pardon for any more crimes that may come up.
That's
Joe Biden's done it for half his, Joe Biden's done it for half his family, for a bunch of other people. He's given them all preemptive get out of jail free cards. We don't even know what the potential crimes might have been in the case of his family members. He's so desperate to preemptively pardon. So my point being, when the existing Democrat president abuses the pardon system in such an obviously personally self-interested manner, I don't think you really have the high moral ground on the left to go after Trump on pardons. I'm afraid that ship has sailed.
Here, you don't think that pardoning violence is a preemptive pardon for more acts of violence? You don't think that is exactly what you're setting the table for? That you don't think that the message is you commit acts of violence, I'm preemptively pardoning you by showing you that I will pardon you for your acts of violence? It is 100% a preemptive pardon for 1,600 people. Let's just say half of that number were violent. The preemptive pardon there is go ahead and commit acts of violence and I will let you get away with it. So yes, I do understand what you're saying about preemptive pardons and Joe Biden being the only other one since Gerald Ford, but Donald Trump has preemptively pardoned every potentially violent
Well, he did that, didn't he? Because actually they
those
will
acts of violence in his name.
Yeah, all
It's
right,
a commission structure, 100%.
Here's the difference. They've already been in jail for quite considerable periods of time. There's a complete difference between those and those who never went to jail. All right, the final word to you on this. Brandon?
Right, well, I'd like to say, I mean, at least the January 6th defendants were charged in the first place. You want to talk about encouraging violence? How about in 2020, the egregious Democrat Party violence of Black Lives Matter that was never even charged in the first place? People burned down buildings, murdered people, beat thousands of police officers, while people like JoJo cheered it on, thought it was the greatest thing that had ever happened. These people weren't even charged with crimes. The January 6th, absolutely you did. The January 6th defendants were treated like terrorists in this country, including people like myself, who were never even accused of violence, vandalism, theft, or destruction. And for many of the people, because we're having this debate about, oh, should the violent people have been pardoned? No one's even taking the time to understand that the Joe Biden, Merrick Garland, and Matthew Graves DOJ lied in these cases up and down. And for many people that were accused of violence and forced into a position where they had to take plea deals and say that they committed violence, that in some cases they didn't commit, but in other cases, they were defending themselves from attacks on police officers. They were being shot in the face with rubber bullets, beaten over the head with batons, sprayed with tear gas as they were standing there peacefully and found themselves in a position where they had to defend themselves. The moment they defended themselves, the DOJ isolated that moment, took it out of context and said, this person assaulted a police officer. And low IQ, low information people like JoJo believed everything that they heard that was reported in the media. And that's where we are.
Final word to Geraldo. Final word to Geraldo.
All I want to say is the pardons were obnoxious, and I think that there is widespread agreement here that to that extent. However, what you said, Piers, I think is really what should rule how we feel about it. These people, in terms, and especially when compared to the other guests' reference to the George Floyd riots that really ravaged the country. In the case of the Capitol, the January 6th riots, which changed my life, as I said earlier, ended my friendship with the president, which had gone on for over 40 years. I think that the vast majority of the people pardoned were people who served significant sentences already for these crimes. And crimes they were. And an invasion of the Capitol it was. These people they may have been pardoned, but there is a scar there and a...
Swapping, Europe's top refurbished iPhones, trusted by over 1 million users.
To see the beauty in everything is life's greatest adventure. It's the excitement of the unknown and the comfort of the familiar. It's feeling free or escaping to just be. Sharing moments without a care in the universe. Spiceless retreats.
Never there, and everybody knows their situation. To some, it's a mark of glory. To others, like me, it is repugnant. And let them live. The person who smashed into the Capitol, the first one and all the rest of them. They are people that, in my view, are fringe players. They did their time. Forget about them. Trump did something we don't agree in terms of the ethics of it, but we do agree with the legality and the constitutionality. He was well within his rights. Let's move on as a country. Let's see.
It's just good to see your presidents all behaving like a good old-fashioned British king, Harada. Great to see you all. Thank you very much indeed. Lara Trump, the daughter-in-law of President Trump, is now she no longer pursued a political career in the Senate, despite mounting speculation that she may replace Marco Rubio in the Florida seat. She stepped down from her role as co-chair of the RNC at the end of last year, but teased an exciting announcement coming this month, potentially suggesting future political aspirations. Lara remains a significant figure in American politics. From her father-in-law back in the White House. Let's find out what is next for her from the woman herself. Lara, great to see you.
Hey, Pierre, it's great to be back with you.
Are you ready to make your exciting announcement right now here on Piers Morgan Uncensored?
Do it here. Wow, break some news here. No, I'm not going to do it here. I know, I'm sorry. But it's coming very soon. I think this week I should be able to make the announcement.
So I was thinking of you, right, I knew we were going to have you back on the show, just about what it must be like for the Trump family the last 4 years, when you've gone from all the mayhem we were just discussing January the 6th and all the fallout from that, obviously, and that for a long period of time after that, it did seem like your father-in-law, President Trump, was politically dead and buried. And then sort of a remarkable series of events happened. There was the lawfare launched against him, which I thought was, a lot of it was completely ridiculous, not least the Stormy Daniels case, which led to him getting a conviction of something most people thought was pathetic. And we saw his poll ratings going up and up and up throughout that whole process. Then you have the assassination attempt, where you will have been watching like the rest of us in utter horror as he came within half an inch of losing his life. Then another attempt at the golf course, which he also survived thanks to the sharp eyes of the Secret Service agent. Then you have the dramatic resignation of Joe Biden, the kind of coronation of Kamala Harris. It was, but for what was being billed at the start of the year as a boring rerun of two old guys duking it out, it became one of the most thrilling election campaigns of all time. But what was it like for you on the inside? As his daughter, it's not just Donald Trump, the politician. This is Morgan.
Yes, no, it's been a wild ride. I mean, and I would say that here's the last 9 years, really, because since the moment Donald Trump came down the escalator in Trump Tower, very famously in 2015 to announce he was running for president, things have never been the same, politically speaking, and not just America, but I think really around the world. People would agree with that. Certainly, the past several years have been incredibly unique. And, you know, for me, I had a unique role as well in that I was the co-chair of the RNC throughout the course of the past year and this election. But I'll tell you, as a daughter-in-law, as a family member, you know, we have together as a family experienced some incredible highs, but we've also experienced the lowest lows, and we've all done it together as a family. And you're right, there were many people who counted Donald Trump out, who said he is politically dead, he's never coming back from this, he has no chance. You remember there were several people who got in the primaries this past cycle as a Republican, and a lot of people got behind one of those folks and said, I'm not even going to bother with Donald Trump. And yet, look at what he's done here. In the first week he has been in office, it's because people were able to see a side of Donald Trump, I believe, that they were not able to see previously. And it's because of some of those things that you just said. Some of it has to do with the lawfare that people saw. And it made them take a second look and say, why is it they're working so hard against this one man? Some of it did have to do with probably those assassination attempts against him. Took another look at Donald Trump and people said, maybe there's more to this guy. And then I think, you know, people in this country got to a point where truly they almost didn't have a choice. They could not continue their life in the same direction it had been going under the current leadership, under Democrat leadership, because it had failed them. Because inflation is sky high, gas is sky high, we have an open border, we have wars breaking out around the world, and people said, we can't live like this. Donald Trump was offering something different. He did have a proven track record. And so it's been amazing to be a part of all of this as a family member, but also serving as co-chair of the RNC. I feel incredibly blessed, and to have a front row seat to history has truly been remarkable.
Do you feel he's a slightly changed man. I mean, I've spoken to him 5 or 6 times since he got shot, including the week afterwards when I was talking about him on Fox and he was watching and he called me afterwards. We had quite a long chat. And I just felt then that something slightly had changed with him, that he just realized how close he'd come to dying. And that it sparked something in him. And I also feel getting the presidency back in such overwhelmingly successful way, winning such a mandate, winning the popular vote, winning everything, frankly. But the combination of the two things, I'm just detecting when I speak to him, he's just a bit of a different guy. He seems a little bit more relaxed, certainly more focused, I think, on legacy and what he wants to get done and getting his election promises done. But, again, you're on the inside. You see him a lot, not just as a political figure, but you see him as your father-in-law, you see him around your kids, he's a great grandfather, I know that. What do you feel? Do you think he's a different guy?
He is. Look, he's still the same Donald Trump. He's still probably one of the funniest people I've ever met, a great storyteller. He's still this incredibly smart businessman, a great negotiator, which you're seeing with people, like the president of Colombia making, a decision in an hour to finally accept, the criminals that we want to get out of this country. But he is different. Look, I don't think you go through something like a near-death experience and come out the same on the other side. He said it time and time again. He said it at his inauguration address. He believes he is here today by the grace of God. He would not be here were it not God's choice to spare his life. He truly believes that. And so I do think that it's changed something in him. And you're right. This overwhelming win, this mandate delivered by the American people was such that it has given him, I think this, not Donald Trump giving more confidence, but extra confidence on top of what he already had.
Yeah.
He had 8 years to really solidify who he was going to be as a politician, who he wanted to be as a president. He had the 4 years of experience, and then don't kid yourself, Donald Trump is a study like I've never met before. When he wants to focus on something, he learns every single thing about it. And he did that over the past 4 years. He saw all the things the Biden administration did wrong. He saw the ways that we've been ripped off, that he maybe didn't even see his first term in office, because quite frankly, he was fighting for his life every day there. There was so much against him. And so he's going in there with this idea in his mind, what he wants to do. He's executing on all of these things. And he is, I think, relaxed is a good way to describe him too, because he's seen this show before with the media. He's seen the way they attack him. He's seen the deep state, the swamp. It is a bit of a different Donald Trump, and I think it's to the benefit not just of America, but to the entire world. And so it's really exciting to witness this right now. And I've said this several times since his election peers. I actually believe that Donald Trump, despite how they've tried to paint this man, will actually be a great unifier for this country. And I believe when he leaves office, he's going to go out with one of the highest approval ratings of any modern president. Wait and see. I think already people are starting to feel that and see it happen.
You know what?
And it's really, really amazing.
I think you're right. I think that he is much more focused now. I've just been struck by little things I'm reading, like he had dinner for 3 hours with Bill Gates, not a natural bedfellow of his, someone who's criticised him harshly in the past. But Bill Gates was very complimentary and said that President Trump listened to all his stuff about disease and about climate change, about music, and was very respectful. And I was like, that's interesting to me that he's seeing all these guys. People like Mark Zuckerberg have done these massive U-turns after going to dinner at Mar-a-Lago. I don't know what he's saying to them all of these dinners, but whatever it does, it's still working. But he's bringing into the tent a lot of people that were not natural Trump supporters. In fact, quite the opposite. And I think that is the way, actually, we begin to get to a more unified America, is when you bring in people that have previously been the sworn enemies.
Right. Well, look at who he has as part of his administration, or he hopes to have, in RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. These are people who were Democrats once upon a time. I actually think RFK Jr. still technically is a Democrat. He wanted to run as the nominee for the Democrats for president. And so you're right. I think to see the way that people have really opened up, and you said, you don't know what he's saying to people like Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg at these dinners. I've witnessed some of these dinners. Donald Trump is just being himself. And, he gets mischaracterized so often, and he was sold to so many Americans as this monster, as, this fascist, and this, that, and the other. You throw out any words you want that's negative, they would apply it to Donald Trump. But what a lot of people are finding is that he's a very reasonable guy. He does want to hear all perspectives and all sides of things. and he's very open to sitting down with anyone if he thinks it's going to benefit this country. And so I think it's been amazing to see those things happen. I knew there was a shift, Piers, when he got a commemorative Diet Coke delivered directly to Mar-a-Lago. We would have never seen that his first term in office, if we're all being honest.
Yes.
And I think it's great. He himself has said success will unify us, success will bring us together. And he's also said my revenge will be success. He wants to succeed. He's already hit the ground running, and I think there's a lot more to come.
Well, it's the great Frank Sinatra line, isn't it? The best revenge is massive success. And I definitely think that's awesome. I also think, I remember when I did Celebrity Apprentice, and it's always a good chance to remind everybody that I won the first series of Celebrity Apprentice, how I met all of you guys. And it was fascinating to get to know him properly then. But, I always remember reading his book, Think Big and Kick Ass was the title of his hilarious book, and then The Art of the Deal. I read them both before I did the show to try and get inside his head a bit. And it just struck me that there were lots of clues there for how you would end up running the country. And that one of the things in one of those books was about how if he gets attacked, he goes into attack mode himself and tries to punch back metaphorically much harder. And that in that first term, it was constant attack. It was all Russia collusion, it was all this. The media were attacking, the Democrats were attacking, everyone was attacking, the marches everywhere. Protests everywhere, everyone's screaming abuse, Trump hysteria, he's Hitler, they're all the new fascists and so on. This time, you talk about the moments when you think, I think he's won this. One was definitely when he stood up after he was shot. I just thought that was my iconic, incredible moment. And I said that to him the week after on the phone when he called me. I said, I think you've now won the election. And then the very next day, Joe Biden quit. I was like, wow, anything can happen here. Because he said 3 months is a long time. Boy, was he right, 3 hours. It turned out as a long time. But, so I sort of looked at that moment. But I also felt that with him, that when he did the Madison Square Garden rally, the first rally I've been to, and I was there a few hours and was watching it, really interesting. It was like being at a rock concert, and waiting for the big band to appear, And then I said to Secret Service, how many protesters turned up? It's the middle of Manhattan, just before the election. And he said 150 people bothered to turn up in the middle of New York to protest about a Trump rally. First one ever at Madison Square Garden. It's iconic, venue in a Democrat city. And there were 50,000 people outside the venue, but they were Trump supporters trying to get in who didn't have tickets. And I said to people then, he's won. He's won big. I said, it wouldn't surprise me if you might even win New York, which sounded ridiculous. But I just said, if they can't be bothered to come to Manhattan, to Madison Square Garden and scream abuse, it's over. The resistance is done.
Right. And that was exactly right. And you know what? We saw that in more places than just New York. And I think it's because there really has been a culture shift. And if you look at Donald Trump now, I mean, you even have people like Stephen A. Smith admitting, and Bill Maher, Donald Trump is cool. This is how people see him now. It has totally changed. That Madison Square Garden rally, I remember driving there from Trump Tower in the motorcade with my father-in-law. There were supporters like 9 and 10 people deep, all the way from Trump Tower, which is on 5th Avenue and 56th Street, all the way down to Madison Square Garden, which is on 34th Street. It was amazing to see and it's not just visual, it's palpable out there all over this country. I had to go to Washington, D.C. the week before the inauguration, and what was incredible to me is the feeling in D.C., a place that I think Donald Trump won 3% of the vote in 2016. People in D.C. who live there were actually very positive and generally very happy and very nice to me. Something has changed. There is a shift, and I hope we can take this moment. I hope we can further this because it's a good thing for America. We actually are, it turns out, more alike than we are different. And we all kind of want the same things at the end of the day. We want our families to succeed, be healthy, be able to provide for them, and have, a bit of an upward trajectory for our life. That's what Donald Trump wants to provide for people. And I think that people got that. They understood that in this election. And I think here's even some of the ones who were hysterical, when he won on November 5th of last year. I think that even some of these people are going to start coming around because when your life looks a little bit better, when your future looks a little bit brighter, it's hard to argue with tangible results. And I think that's what he's going to deliver to people. So it's a culture shift. It's a phenomenon. It's a change. And it didn't hurt that the other side was really so bad. It really just, everything's fake and phony and no one was buying it. The enthusiasm, the joy, give me a break, nobody bought it for a second.
Have we found out yet whose idea it was to come up with that campaign ad, which was Farmers for they, them, Donald Trump for you?
Well, I know who it was. It was one of our campaign team, and it was very strategically placed during Sunday night and Monday night football games, and it was targeted at a very specific audience, and it turns out it worked. And that was just part of it. You know, it takes a minute for people, I think, to start thinking about things and realizing how outrageous some of the things that are being shoved down our throats have become by the left. And I think that was one of those moments a lot of people were like, yeah, I think that's right, and I think I'm going to vote for Donald Trump.
And given that he's been widely credited with persuading his dad to do all the YouTubers, which as a YouTuber I'm all in favour of, and given he took a little victory lap the other day where the audience went crazy as he saluted him, is Barron being lined up? Is he the next president? You think in 25, 30 years?
That's the rumor, isn't it? That's the rumor. Barron is in line next. Listen, he is a really smart, very talented kid, and I don't even think I can call him a kid anymore. That's how I've always known him. But you know, he's 18 years old, and he is part of the reason that I think you saw Donald Trump doing podcasts like Joe Rogan, like Theo Vaughn, and really going hard in that circuit. I think it was very impactful in this election, and so yeah, we got to give Barron a lot of credit. Now, what he's planning to do in the future, he quite frankly could just choose anything he wanted. He's smart, he's talented, and you know, the world is his oyster. So we'll see. I know it would make a lot of folks on the left very happy to know that there may be another President Trump coming down the line from station.
Well, he does. He looks very like Donald did when he was the same age. If you actually look at him.
Yeah. Very handsome, great looking parents make a great looking kid, turns out.
Well, you're a good looking family, aren't you? When you all come out, it is like, you know, probably since the Kennedys, we haven't seen this kind of thing. I want to play you a clip, which I'm sure you will love to watch again. It's your children leading the Pledge of Allegiance at the victory rally with big inauguration. Let's take a look. How did you feel? I mean, it's such an extraordinary moment for these kids to be doing that at that age. A lot of kids might have just run away. I'm going to think at least two
They don't even realize it. That's the amazing thing. They're finally starting to kind of grasp who Grandpa is. Well, Eric and I were about to go out there on stage with my brother-in-law Don and my niece Kai. Kai's like the most famous of the Trumps right now, by the way. She's like the shining star to emerge from the family beside Barron. Yeah, great golfer. But we were about to go out there, and both our kids were like, we don't want to go out. And we said, all right, well, if you go out, then maybe you could say the Pledge of Allegiance, which we do with our kids every night before we do prayers, before we go to bed. And so they were kind of like, all right. It's amazing, you know, to be able to share that with the country, with them, to have that moment. It was so special. And I hope that one day they look back on this and they actually feel the gravity of what was going on. Because to them, it was just like a fun thing. There's a microphone. They are their grandfather's grandchildren. They do love a microphone, it turns out. So there you go. They had a great time.
And you've had an amazing life, a pastry chef, a personal trainer, a broadcaster, a singer, politics, and then who knows what you're going to be announcing soon. When you look back over your life, I mean, that's been pretty surreal too, isn't it, that you've ended up where you are?
It's remarkable. I don't know any other reason that I'm here than I'll give credit and glory to God, honestly. I grew up like so many other people in America. I grew up in a middle-class family. My parents were small business owners, and I couldn't, in my wildest dreams, have ever imagined I would have the last name Trump, let alone be involved with all of this. Really the greatest political story, I would argue, in the history of our country. And it's amazing to have played a small role in it. I wake up every day and I pinch myself because I really don't even believe it's real. So I don't take any of it for granted, not for a second. I'm honored, I'm humbled, and yeah, I kind of feel like maybe the first chapter of my life is written. I don't know what's to come. There will be the announcement, like I said, later this week, and maybe that's the start of the next chapter of my life. So very exciting, but I am truly very blessed.
I I mean, I was a bit, presumptive by suggesting Barron might be the next President Trump. There's never been a female American president. There are quite a few women in the Trump dynasty that I could imagine fitting in quite nicely for a presidential run. You would be one of them, Ivanka, Kai. I mean, there's a conveyor belt coming through, right?
Well, I will tell you this. I actually predict that the first female president of the United States will be a Republican. So whether she has the last name Trump or not, I won't be the one to say. But I think you can take that, write it down, mark the tape, go back to it whenever we elect our first woman as president, and she's running for the Republican Party.
Well, I thought for a bit of time that your father-in-law was going to identify as a woman and claim that he was now the first female president. I thought that would have been a hilarious way to deal with woke mind virus once and for all.
That would have been a good one. I'll suggest it for her. Maybe there is something to come. A moment in the future.
It would be funny. Laurie, great to talk to you as always. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Pierce. Appreciate it.
We don't go upstairs, Bells. Our pet is there. What, so did you get money for your mum anyway? Or?